Commander Park Jimin pressed his face against the cold metal wall of the exploration ship Meridian. The lights flickered on and off like dying fireflies. His breath came out in small white clouds as the ship's heating system slowly failed. Around him, 11 other crew members worked quietly at their stations, but everyone knew the truth. They were going to die out here in the empty darkness of space. 3 days ago, everything had been normal. They were 47 light-years from Earth, further than any human had ever traveled before. The Meridian was supposed to survey the Kepler 442 system and look for signs of life on distant planets. It was the kind of mission that made Jimin proud to be an explorer. Humanity was finally reaching out to touch the stars. Then the fusion drive exploded. Not a big explosion with fire and noise. Space doesn't work that way. Instead, there was just a quiet shudder through the ship's hull, followed by alarms and the terrible silence of a drive that would never work again. Chief Engineer Kim Hanna had crawled through damaged corridors for hours, trying to fix what couldn't be fixed. The drive core was dead, and with it, their ability to get home. "Commander," called out Navigation Officer Lee Juno from his station. "I've calculated our drift path. We're moving toward empty space at about 2,000 kilometers per hour. No planets, no asteroid fields. Nothing for the next 300 years. Jimin nodded. He had expected as much. Space was mostly empty, after all. That was why ships needed engines. Lieutenant Kim Tae looked up from the engineering display. Life support is down to 12%. At our current usage, we have maybe 16 hours of air left. The crew received this news with the calm that comes from already accepting death. They had talked it through over the past 3 days. Earth Command had no ships in this sector. Their families were 47 light-years away. The laws of physics were clear and final. "Has anyone finished their message recordings?" asked Communications Officer Park Nari. Most hands went up. They had each recorded final words for the people they loved back home. The messages would be automatically transmitted if another ship ever found the Meridian. Maybe years from now. Medical Officer Song Hai was checking her equipment one last time. "I can give everyone something to make it easier," she offered quietly. "When the air gets thin, you won't feel much pain." "No," said Jimin firmly. "We stay awake. We stay together. If this is how it ends, we face it with our eyes open." The crew agreed without argument. They were explorers, not quitters. Pilot Officer Choi Min was looking out the small viewport near his station. "It's beautiful out there," he said softly. "All those stars. Makes you think about how big everything is, and how small we are," added Engineer Kim Hanna. She had finally given up trying to fix the unfixable and was sitting with the others. "Small, but not meaningless," said Jimin. "We came further than any human before us. We saw things no one from Earth has ever seen. That matters." Communications Specialist Lee Mina suddenly looked up from her station. "Sir, I'm getting something strange on the long-range sensors." Everyone turned to look at her. Strange was not what they expected to hear in empty space. "What kind of strange?" asked Jimin. "It's a ship, but not like anything in our databases. The material doesn't match. Human construction. And it's moving toward us." The crew gathered around the sensor display. The object was definitely artificial, but its shape was smooth and curved like something grown rather than built. It pulsed with soft light patterns along its hull. Could it be automated? Wondered Navigation Officer Choi Sura. Maybe a probe from another human colony, suggested Medical Officer Kim Yuna, though her voice showed she didn't really believe it. Jimin stared at the display. In all of human history, they had never found proof of intelligent life beyond Earth. Now, when they were hours from death, in the deepest space, something impossible was approaching them. "Open all communication channels," he ordered. Park Nari's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "Channels open, sir." Jimin took a deep breath. If this was humanity's first contact with alien intelligence, he wanted to do it right. Unknown vessel, this is Commander Park, Jimin, of the Earth exploration ship Meridian. We are experiencing critical system failure and are in immediate need of assistance. Please respond. For long minutes, there was only silence. The strange ship continued to approach, growing larger on their sensors. Then the speakers crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect English, melodic and strange. Commander Park. This is Science Officer Vel, of the Kathai research vessel, Gentle Current. We have received your distress signal, and are moving to intercept. Prepare your crew for emergency extraction. The crew stared at each other in amazement. Not only was there intelligent life in the universe, but it had just offered to save them, as the air grew thin and consciousness began to fade. Jimin's last clear thought was wonder at how big and strange and wonderful the universe had just become. Science Officer Vel stood in the bright chamber of the Kathai ship, watching the sleeping humans in their healing pods. The 12 creatures looked so fragile compared to his own people. Their skin was thick and opaque, hiding their inner workings. They had only one heart each, which seemed terribly risky. Yet somehow they had survived in the cold metal shell they called a spaceship. Captain Moore entered the medical bay, his tall form glowing with worry patterns. Like all Kathai, his skin was translucent, showing the soft light of his 3 hearts, beating in different rhythms. The council has called an emergency session, he said quietly. They are not happy with our rescue. Vel's skin flickered with frustration. We could not let them die. The law is clear, Moore replied. No contact with primitive species. We should have let them drift. Through the biowalls of the ship, Vel could feel the gentle current humming with life. The vessel was grown, not built, and it responded to the emotions of its crew. Right now it felt anxious, sensing the conflict between duty and conscience that filled its Kathai passengers. The largest healing pod began to open with a soft hiss. The human leader, Commander Park, slowly sat up. His eyes were small and round, unlike the large dark eyes of the Kathai, but they held intelligence and curiosity rather than fear. Where am I? Park asked, looking round the organic chamber with wonder rather than panic. You are safe aboard the Gentle Current, Vel said, his translation device converting his musical language into human speech. I am Science Officer Vel. We rescued you from your damaged vessel. Park tried to stand, moving more smoothly than Vel had expected. My crew, all alive and recovering in similar pods. Your species has remarkable physical resilience. The human commander smiled, and Vel noted how the expression changed his entire face. Kathai did not smile with their mouths. They showed emotion through the patterns of light beneath their skin. How long were we unconscious? Park asked. 6 of your hours. Our healing chambers accelerated your recovery from oxygen deprivation. Park walked to the transparent wall and looked out at the stars. This is incredible. You saved us. But why? You don't know anything about us. Vel's skin pulsed with confusion. You were dying. Was there another choice? Some species might have seen us as a threat. Others might have ignored us completely. Are you a threat? Vel asked curiously. Park laughed, a sound that vibrated strangely in the bioship's atmosphere. 12 humans in a broken ship, 47 light-years from home. I don't think we're threatening anyone right now. Over the next hour, the other humans began waking up. Vel watched with fascination as they immediately asked about their companions rather than themselves. When Engineer Kim Hanna learned that everyone was safe, she actually began to cry. Vel had read about human tears, but had never seen them before. Your emotional responses are much stronger than our models predicted, he told Park as they watched the crew reunite. What did your models predict? Fear, aggression, territorial behavior. Most species become violent when stressed. Park looked thoughtful. We're explorers, Vel. We chose to leave our safe world and travel to unknown places. That takes a certain kind of person. We look out for each other because we're all we have out here. Through the ship's communication system, Captain Moore's voice announced that he was receiving a transmission from the Cathai home world. Vel's skin went pale with worry. Is something wrong? Park asked, noticing the change. Our government is not pleased that we rescued you, Vel admitted. We have laws against contact with developing species. Developing, I suppose we are. Compared to you, your ship is alive, isn't it? Vel nodded. Grown from modified coral organisms. It heals itself, adapts to dangers, even thinks in simple ways. Amazing. Our ships are just metal and circuits, but they're tough. They can survive things that would kill a living ship. Different approaches, Vel agreed, but both valid. The communication system chimed again. This time, it was Elder Yoon's voice, cold and formal. Science Officer Vel, report to the bridge immediately. Vel's 3 hearts beat faster with nervousness. I must go. Please, stay here, where it is safe. On the bridge, a holographic image of Elder Yoon floated above the communication array. Her ancient face was stern, and her skin showed deep red. Patterns of anger. You have violated our most sacred law, she said without greeting. Contact with primitive species is forbidden. They must be returned to their vessel and abandoned. Elder, their vessel is damaged beyond repair, Captain Moore protested. They will die. That is not our concern. The law exists to protect both us and them from the chaos that contact brings. Respected Elder, Vel said carefully, these humans show no signs of the aggression our models predicted. They are cooperative, curious, and peaceful. All species appear peaceful when they are weak and dependent, Elder Yoon replied. Send them back to their ship. Elder Yoon, came a new voice from the bridge entrance. Commander Park stood there, having followed despite Vel's instructions. May I speak? Elder Yoon's image flickered with surprise. The primitive understands our language. Your translation systems work very well, Park said politely. I wanted to thank you for saving my crew. We understand that you took risks to help us. If your laws require you to abandon us, we accept that. You've already given us more life than we had before. Vel watched as Elder Yoon studied the human commander. Her angry skin patterns slowly faded to neutral colors. You would return to certain death without complaint, she asked. If that's what your laws require? Yes. But we would always remember that when we needed help, someone answered. For the first time in centuries, Elder Yoon found herself uncertain about the ancient laws. Lieutenant Kim Hannah crawled through the damaged sections of the meridian alongside Cathai engineer Kala. The alien's translucent skin glowed softly in the dark corridors, providing light where the ship's systems had failed. Hannah held her primitive flashlight, feeling embarrassed by how crude it seemed compared to Kayla's natural illumination. Your vessel survived an engine explosion that should have destroyed it completely, Kayla said, running her long fingers over the twisted metal. How is this possible? We build things to last, Hannah replied, pointing to the thick structural beams. Redundant systems, backup power, emergency protocols. When one thing breaks, 10 other things keep working. Kala's skin pulsed with curiosity. But it must be so heavy, so inefficient. Maybe, but it brought us home alive when everything went wrong. They worked together for hours, Kala using her biotools to grow new connections, while Hannah welded broken joints with her cutting torch. The Cathai watched with fascination as sparks flew from the human tool. You use fire to fix things, Kala asked. Heat melts metal so we can reshape it. Simple, but effective. In the ship's restored dining area, other crew members gathered with their Cathai counterparts. Medical Officer Song Hai sat with the Cathai healer named Nira, comparing their different approaches to medicine. You actually cut into the body? Nira asked, her skin showing patterns of concern. Sometimes it's the only way to fix serious injuries, Song Hai explained. We use very small, precise cuts to repair damage inside. Nira's healing worked differently. Her hands glowed with soft energy that encouraged the body to heal itself. We guide the natural healing process, but your way, it is more direct, faster for emergency situations. Each method has its place, Songhai agreed. Maybe we could learn from each other. Commander Park found himself spending most evenings with Science Officer Vel in the observation lounge. The Katai was endlessly curious about human culture and history. You have wars on your planet? Vel asked, one evening as they watched the stars through the bioship's transparent walls. We used to fight a lot, Park admitted. Different countries, different beliefs. But exploring space changed us. When you see Earth from far away, it looks like one small blue world. The borders disappear. The Kathai achieved unity thousands of years ago, Vel said. We eliminated conflict by ensuring everyone thought the same way. That sounds peaceful, but also lonely. Vel's skin flickered with confusion. How can unity be lonely? Disagreement isn't always bad, Park explained. When people see things differently, they come up with new ideas, new solutions to problems. Our diversity makes us stronger. This was a completely new concept to Vel. On Kathai worlds, harmony meant agreement. Conflict was seen as a sign of primitive thinking. Navigation. Officer Lee Juno was showing Kathai pilot Mora how human ships navigated space. We use mathematics and star charts, he explained, pointing to his instruments. Calculate position. Plot courses. Check for obstacles. Mora's piloting was more intuitive. We feel the currents in space, she said. The gravity fields, the magnetic flows. The ship itself tells us where to go. That's incredible, Juno said. But what if the ship is wrong? Living ships do not make mistakes about navigation, but they cannot survive damage like your metal. Vessa's communications officer Park Nari was teaching Kathai linguist Sara about human languages. We have thousands of different languages on Earth, she explained. Each culture developed its own way of speaking. But that must cause confusion, Zara replied. How do you communicate? We learn multiple languages, or use translators like yours. The different languages give us different ways to think about things. Zara found this fascinating. The Kathai had one language, evolved over millions of years. To be perfectly logical and efficient. Do you have art? Asked Pilot Officer Choi Min during another evening gathering. The Kathai looked puzzled. What is art? Min pulled out his small tablet and showed them images from Earth. Paintings, sculptures, music, poetry. We create things that are beautiful, but not useful, just because they make us feel good. The Kathai stared at the images with wonder. Their culture focused entirely on practical purposes. Everything had a function. This serves no survival purpose, asked Vel. Not directly, but it feeds something inside us, makes life worth living. Engineer Kim Tae was demonstrating human repair techniques to the Kathai mechanics. When something breaks, we replace the broken part, he explained, swapping out a damaged component. The Kathai approach was different. They encouraged broken parts to regrow themselves, like healing a wound. Your way is faster for major damage, admitted Kathai engineer Duri. Our way only works if most of the system is still healthy. Maybe we could combine both methods, Kim Tae suggested. Use your healing for small problems, our replacement for big ones. As the days passed, both species found themselves changing. The humans marveled at Kathai biotechnology and their deep connection to living systems. The Kathai were amazed by human adaptability and their ability to thrive in harsh conditions. Science. Officer Vel spent long hours with Commander Park, learning about human philosophy and dreams. Why do you explore? Vel asked one evening. Your world has everything you need. Because we want to know what's out there, Park replied simply. We want to meet new people, see new worlds, learn new things, even if it's dangerous, especially if it's dangerous. The best discoveries come from taking risks. Vel's skin pulsed with understanding. For the first time, he began to see why. The human approach to life was not primitive, but simply different. Their willingness to face the unknown had led them across the galaxy to this meeting. Perhaps, Vel said quietly, the universe is large enough for many different ways of living. Park smiled. I think you're starting to understand us. The emergency alarm filled the bridge of the gentle current with urgent musical tones. Commander Park rushed from his quarters on the human section of the ship to find Captain Moore and Science Officer Vel staring at a holographic display. The image showed a massive purple and gold storm swirling through space like an angry hurricane made of lightning. What's happening? Park asked. Colony ship Growing Song is trapped, Captain Moore said, his skin pale with worry. 3,000 Cathai civilians on board. The plasma storm caught them while they were traveling to establish a new world. Vel pointed to the display. Plasma storms are electromagnetic nightmares. They scramble all our biosystems. Our ships cannot function inside them. Park studied the readings. The storm was huge, stretching across millions of kilometers. In the center, barely visible through the chaos, was a small dot representing the Cathai colony ship. How long can they survive? He asked. Maybe 12 hours, Mole replied. Their bioship is trying to adapt, but the electromagnetic interference is too strong. It's slowly dying. What about evacuation? Can other Cathai ships get close enough to rescue people? Impossible. Any bioship that enters the storm will lose all power and drift helplessly. We cannot reach them. Park's mind raced. 3,000 people were going to die, and the most advanced species he had ever met was helpless to save them. Then an idea formed. What if we tried? He said suddenly. Vel's skin flickered with confusion. Your ship cannot survive a plasma storm either. Maybe not. But the Meridian is built differently than your ships. We use mechanical systems instead of biological ones. Electromagnetic storms can't kill metal and circuits the same way they kill living tissue. Captain Moore's 3 hearts beat faster. You would risk your lives for our people. You risked everything to save us, Park replied simply. Fair is fair. Within an hour, both crews were working frantically to modify the Meridian. The plan was crazy and dangerous. They would wrap the human ship in Cathai bioshielding that could adapt to the storm's changing conditions, while the ship's mechanical heart would keep them moving, even when the biosystems failed. Engineer Kim Hanna worked, alongside Cathai technician Kala, connecting living tissue to metal circuits. This should not work, Kala said, as she grew neural connections around the ship's power systems. Most of our best ideas shouldn't work, Hannah replied. Welding bioconduits to electrical panels. That's what makes them interesting. Science Officer Vel was in the Meridian's laboratory with Medical Officer Songhai, creating hybrid life support systems. Human engineering is so crude, he muttered, as he tried to make delicate biofilters work with the ship's rough ventilation system. Crude but tough, Songhai said. Your systems are elegant, but ours keep working when everything goes wrong. The real challenge was navigation. Pilot Officer Choi Min had to learn how to fly blind through a storm that would scramble all their sensors. I'll have to feel my way through, he explained to Cathai navigator Mora. Like driving through fog, but the fog is trying to kill us. Trust the biocomponents, Mora advised. They will sense the storm's patterns, even when your instruments fail. 8 hours after the emergency began, the hybrid Meridian launched into the plasma storm. The ship looked strange now, covered in living tissue that pulsed with soft light. Metal and flesh worked together in ways that should have been impossible. Commander. Park sat in the captain's chair while Vel monitored the biosystems from a new station grown into the bridge. As they entered the storm's edge, the lights flickered, and sparks flew from several control panels. Bioshields holding Vel, reported as his living instruments adapted to the electromagnetic chaos. But the storm is stronger than we expected. Hull temperature rising, called Engineer Kim Hanna from her station. The metal is heating up from the plasma discharge. Biocooling systems responding, added Cathay Engineer Dury. Growing additional heat dispersal along the hull. The deeper they went, the worse conditions became. The view screen showed nothing but swirling purple chaos. Communications with the outside world were impossible. They were truly alone in the heart of the storm. There, Pilot Choi Min pointed at a faint reading on his instruments. I think I found them. Through the chaos, they could barely make out the growing song. The colony ship was beautiful, even in distress, shaped like a massive flower with petals that normally glowed with life. Now it hung dark and still, its biosystems overwhelmed by the storm. Growing song, this is the Meridian Park broadcast on all frequencies. We're here to get you out? The evacuation took 14 trips. Each time the Meridian docked with the dying colony ship, they loaded as many Cathay civilians as possible into their cargo holds and passenger areas. The refugees were frightened but amazed to find themselves saved by the strange metal ship, crewed by aliens they had never heard of. Why are you helping us? Asked colony leader Mira, as Park helped her aboard during the 7th trip. Because you're in trouble, and we can help, Park replied. That's reason enough. On the final trip, with the last group of civilians aboard, the growing song finally succumbed to the storm. Its biosystems shut down completely, leaving it a dark shell drifting in the plasma chaos. All civilians evacuated, reported communications. Officer Park Nari, time to go home. The journey out of the storm was even more dangerous than going in. The Meridian's hybrid systems were failing, pushed beyond their limits. But the ship held together, protected by the marriage of human engineering and Cathay biotechnology. When they finally emerged into normal space, Captain Moore of the Gentle Current was waiting for them with a fleet of rescue ships. 3,000 souls saved, Moore said as the refugees were transferred to proper Cathay vessels. We owe you a debt that cannot be repaid. No debt, Park replied. Just friends helping. Friends? Admiral Park Jimin stood on the observation deck of the space station Harmony, watching two very different types of ships dock at the same time. On the left, a sleek Cathay bio-vessel pulsed with gentle light as it connected to the station's living docking arms. On the right, a sturdy human cruiser locked into place with mechanical precision, metal clamps securing it firmly. 1 year had passed since the rescue of the growing song. The Treaty of Twin Stars had been signed by both worlds, creating the first alliance between humans and an alien species. Now the joint space station orbited Earth as a symbol of friendship between the stars. Hard to believe it all started with a broken engine, said Science Officer Vel, as he joined Park at the viewing window. The Cathaya had been promoted to Cultural Exchange Director, spending his time helping both species understand each other. Park smiled, his hair now touched with gray, from the stress of becoming humanity's first alien ambassador. Sometimes the best things come from the worst situations. Through the station's transparent walls, they could see Earth turning slowly below. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from space, showing no signs of the excitement that had swept through human civilization when news of the Cathay Alliance reached home. The children's program starts in an hour, Vel reminded him. Are you ready for this? Park nodded. Today marked a special milestone. The first group of human and Cathay children would begin studying together at the station's new school. It was an experiment that both governments watched nervously in the education center. 12 human children aged 8 to 10 sat nervously at curved desks grown from living wood. Across from them, 12 young Cathay flickered with excited light patterns beneath their translucent skin. The alien children were naturally curious about these strange creatures with solid, opaque bodies. Hello everyone, said teacher Kim Soo, a human educator who had volunteered for this historic assignment. Today we start learning together. 8-year-old Emma Park raised her hand. Why do the Cathay children glow? Young Cathay student Zira's skin pulsed with gentle blue patterns. Why don't human children glow? She asked back. Both teachers laughed. Cathay instructor Luma answered first. Humans show feelings with their faces. We show feelings with light. Can you teach us to glow? Asked human student Kevin Lee. Can you teach us to smile? Asked Cathay student Noru. The language barrier disappeared quickly. Children learned faster than adults, and within weeks the mixed classroom was full of laughter, light patterns, and friendship. Human children learned to read Cathay emotions through skin colors, while Cathay children practiced making human facial expressions. In the station's research laboratories, human and Cathay scientists worked together on projects neither species could accomplish alone. Dr. Songhai had partnered with Cathay bioengineer Kala to develop new medical techniques. Your surgical methods combined with our healing acceleration, Songhai explained to a group of visiting doctors. We can now repair injuries that would have been fatal before. The partnership was changing both species. Humans learned to grow buildings instead of just constructing them, creating structures that healed themselves and adapted to their environments. Cathay learned to build machines that could survive in conditions that would kill any living system. Commander Park found himself traveling constantly between Earth and Cathay space, helping to establish new colonies where both species could live together. The first joint settlement, New Eden, had been built on a planet with perfect conditions for both human and Cathay life. The biodomes are growing well, reported Colony Administrator Kim Tae, as he showed Park around the settlement. Human crops and Cathay singing plants, side by side. Park walked through streets where human houses stood next to beautiful Cathay structures that seemed to grow from the ground itself. Children of both species played together in parks where earth flowers bloomed alongside alien plants that chimed softly in the wind. Any problems with integration? Park asked. Small ones, Kim Tae admitted. Human teenagers like to stay up late, but that interferes with Cathay's sleep cycles. And some of the older humans complain that Cathay music sounds like whale songs. Growing pains, Park said. We'll figure it out. The real test came when the colony faced its first crisis. A solar flare damaged both the human power systems and the Cathay bio-networks. But instead of panic, the colonists worked together. Humans shared their backup generators, while Cathay bioengineers grew new power conduits. The crisis was solved, in days instead of months. 20 years after first contact, Admiral Park stood once again on an observation deck, but this time aboard the joint exploration vessel, New Horizons. The ship was a marvel of cooperative engineering, combining the durability of human construction with the adaptability of Cathay biotechnology. Beside him, Science Director Vel watched as their grandchildren played together in the ship's garden. Park's granddaughter Mina was teaching young Cathay Zara how to throw a ball, while Zara showed Mina how to make flowers bloom by singing to them. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't met? Park asked. Vel's skin glowed with contentment. I think the universe has a way of bringing together those who are meant to be friends. Outside the ship's windows, a new star system appeared on the horizon. The joint fleet was heading toward unexplored space, carrying representatives of two species who had learned that the galaxy was less lonely when you had friends among the stars. Signal from the lead scout ship, reported Communications Officer Lee Yuna. They're detecting artificial structures around the fourth planet. Park and Vel looked at each other with excitement. Another species waited ahead, and this time they would meet them not as strangers, but as partners ready to extend friendship across the void. The rescue that began with one broken ship had become something larger than either species had imagined. The universe was full of wonders, and they would discover them together.